always been and still is Dealey Plaza. But they try to act like it's just not happening, and then they wonder why Dallas has this bad image all around the world. Think about it. There was an assassination attempt on Roosevelt in Florida. Robert Kennedy got killed in Los Angeles. But nobody holds those cities accountable. But Dallas still has this lingering stench of conspiracy, shall we say, and they're promoting it themselves by actions such as this.
But it shows the pig-headed, hubris-filled ignorance. Now the Dallas Observer, I want you to contrast this. The Dallas Observer has actually been doing some really good reports on how this violates the First Amendment, is Kafkaesque in 1984. To contrast that, the Dallas Morning News, right next door to Dealey Plaza, they're like, it'll be swimming with cameras, they say in the first line. We need to block the riffraff out, the 90+% that knows the government blew his head off. We need to block the American scum out of here while we have the TV cameras there and shovel some more propaganda down people's throats. We'll have our dilettante old beauty queens out there walking around with their mint juleps, spritter-spratting to the media. I got news for them. We're going to be down there with bullhorns. There's going to be thousands of us now, and I hope they enjoy us shoving the First Amendment down their stinking throats.
Well, I'll tell you something. There's a writer for the Dallas Observer named Jim Schultz, and he had been trying to get hold of Frank Librio, I suppose, Librio. Frank Librio is the city official who's kind of in charge of this thing, and he will not even talk to the Dallas Observer. How's that for freedom of speech and free access and a free and objective media? I think everybody ought to contact Frank Librio of the city of Dallas and ask him, why he won't talk to the media about these suppression plans for Dealey Plaza.
I got an even better idea. All the groups, because I know the different JFK investigation groups, Grodin and others been arrested countless times. The courts have ruled. He can be out there with his, information, talking to people like anybody else can. How about everybody who's been discriminated against and won't be issued a official permit to have an event there, not just take it over for 5 days? How about they sue the city preemptively for total discrimination? Because if they can get away with this, they can get away with anything. Maybe they'll lease, Texas Stadium for $5 to their cousin next.
Yeah, exactly. This is not even about the Kennedy assassination. This is about basic freedoms. And Alex, you of all people know exactly what I'm saying here, because this is what it's all coming down to. This is what INFOWARS is all about. It's about the battle for your mind. Are we a free people or not? Being free, in my mind, is like being pregnant. You can't be just a little bit pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not. You're either free or you're not. And if the city can issue a permit to keep people out of a public park supported by public tax money, for one group, but then not give it to anybody else, that's not freedom.
Well, it's truly disgusting that they will not issue the people that know the truth about the murder a speaking permit in all these years, a permit on a right for the Memorial Day ceremonies. And now they'll just say, hey, dilettantes, come in 5 days, $110 with an additional $200 that's refunded. So for $300, you get to take over. And they admit, because we want to block out all the riffraff, which is 90+% of the American people. I mean, it just shows how disconnected these people are.
They really are disconnected, and as far as I'm concerned, I think we all ought to go to Dealey Plaza on November the 22nd, 2013. It's a public park. Let's just all go there. Don't be rowdy. Don't be bad. Don't be nasty. Just, go to the park.
And everybody should take one JFK book or some flyers or a film and give it to somebody.
Yeah,
and just have that place knee-deep in documentation.
That's right. No, I think the Dallas authorities have really tripped themselves up this time. And you know what? I wouldn't even blame the city. The city answers to these dilettantes, as you say, and these people are just totally disconnected. And that's what makes this thing actually ludicrous, because they're trying to stifle any kind of dissent from the idea that it was just a lone nut that killed the president. And yet, as you so well pointed out, national polls show that the vast majority, I'm talking 80-90% of the people, no longer believe that anyway. Okay, so what's the problem? Let's just have freedom and let's have everybody present their side, and the side with the best case will eventually win out because truth will out.
Well, Jim, well said. Other facets to this, because we're talking more than a year out, it just shows how on every front, the TSA now on the streets in Dallas and Houston, groping people, searching bags illegally. Lawyers have come out and said, this is illegal. And they've literally in Houston basically said, go smoke a pipe, go jump in the lake. I mean, they just don't care. The IRS is saying they're going to revoke passports. No jury. I mean, this is right out of Soviet Russia or Nazi Germany, and it's on every front. Government has gone crazy.
This is a police state. This is a police state, and I don't think that's what anybody wants. I don't care what your views are.
It is a police state. Right before we went on air tonight, you were saying, Alex, what about this news? They're just pulling out all the stops. And I said, hold on, save it for the air. What were you going to say then?
Well, it's everything you just went by. I mean, you start with the Patriot Act, and then you come up to the Military Commissions Act, and then you come to the NDAA, and then you get to the presidential executive orders where the Secretary of Defense is going to be in charge of all the water resources. That means your rain barrel. That means the pond behind your house. And I suppose that even means the well. If you yourself paid for it and had a well dug, they're going to be charged with water supply. They're taking charge of everything. And the only problem is, Alex, is that they haven't actually banging on your door yet. Okay, but they're putting it all in place. They're putting it all in place, and at some point, a soldier will come around and say, according to the executive order under natural resources, signed by the president, we're taking your rain barrels and we're going to put a smart meter to measure every drop of water that goes through your house.
Wait. That's already beginning under this Rural Affairs Council, and all over the country, federal grants have police knocking on doors between midnight and 4 a.m. if they don't think your house is properly secure, and making you get up. So they want to acclimate us to have contact with the police. They want that 95% that's law-abiding in criminology to get used to the fact that spread them. Get ready, because, we're going to frisk you. You're a criminal. This is martial law creeping in. What do you make of the Labor Department rule that no more family farms? Your kids cannot be involved in any chores, period.
Well, that takes care of the FFA and 4-H, doesn't it? And I got to tell you, even though basically I'm a city boy, but I live in the country now, and I tell you what, some of our finest citizens were turned into good, productive citizens because of their experiences with FFA and the 4-H, and to do away with that, to do away with the Boy Scouts, I mean, they are destroying this country. And nobody seems to know or care because all they do is watch TV and they watch, American Idol, and they're totally distracted. They're drinking the fluoride.
Well, look,
they're being sprayed by the chemtrails, and they don't have a clue as to what's about to come down on them.
Well, yeah, that's a violation of the 10th Amendment, states' rights. 9th Amendment, what are the feds doing out of the jurisdiction? It's a violation of basic human rights. It's a violation of parental rights. All over the country, they're giving kids shots now without parental consent. Totally illegal. And they're taking their DNA. When they take the 7-year-old's DNA, the cops say, they gave me consent. Well, a pervert can't have sex with a 7-year-old because they gave consent. They're not of the age of consent. You give a 16-year-old some liquor and they're not your child, you can go to jail because they can't give consent. It's called contributing to the delinquency of minors. I mean, it's amazing. Just, look, it happens every other country. We've got a case of tyranny, brother.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's absolutely true. And the thing is, my point being is that they're now codifying it and making it all legal. So when the cops bang on your door at 4 in the morning, and here's the thing, I ran with cops for years. I love them. They are a vital necessity to a civilized society, and most of them are good folks, but they just do not realize how they're being taken over and misused by, for want of a better term, the New World Order.
Well, yeah, let's be clear. I mean, as a crime reporter for decades at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, the crime reporter, obviously, police. That was the old breed, and there's still a lot of good ones today. But the directives are corrupt. But I will tell you, in these articles about the knock and talk, The police are the ones complaining, saying, we think this is dangerous. People are getting mad. We don't like this. They're the ones that actually complain. That's how we know about it, is they're complaining everywhere. I mean, who wants to go bang on random people's doors at 3 a.m.?
Well, I live in a rural county. I guarantee you come bang on somebody's door around here at 4 a.m., you're liable to get a case of buckshot. You just don't do that. This is ridiculous. And as you said, I think this is just a conditioning program to get people conditioned to the cops are going to tell you where to go, where to stop, where to lay down, where to put your hands, what to eat. You know, this is not right, and this is not what this country is supposed to be about. And we have a very narrow, increasingly narrow window of opportunity to vote some people in with some sense, to stand up and say no, to tell our local officials, just tell them the feds to take a hike. There was I'll tell you, a good example was the sheriff up in one of the northern western, I think it was in Wyoming, maybe Montana. And he publicly said that if federal agents come in his county and do anything that violates the Constitution of the United States or the Constitution of that state, that his deputies would escort them to the border and kick them out.
Yeah, there's been a bunch of those. There's been a bunch of those, and Sheriff Mack is having meetings with hundreds of them. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, this is exactly what we need to do to take this country back. We can't look to Washington. That's the problem. We need to start locally and just tell the people in Washington hey, go get a real job.
Well, that's the answer, is when some Fed shows up in this rural council to tell you your kid can't be, getting the eggs in the morning. It's time for everybody to get together and tell them, get the hell out of our county.
Yeah.
I mean, it's real simple. You degenerate, shameful, communist scum. But, of course, I say communist. It's Big Agra, who openly wants to shut down what's left of the family farm. They've got all these regulations written that they're all exempt from, to openly shut down the family farm. I mean, these people are just absolute trash.
And these are laws that are being passed by Congress, who exempts themselves from Obamacare and from Medicare and from Social Security, and have placed themselves on the Federal Employees Retirement Fund, which is their own little private golden parachute. I'm telling you, we really do need one more amendment to the Constitution, and that is any law passed by Congress applies equally to Congress.
I agree. JimMars.com. In the 4 or 5 minutes we've got left, I always love to throw a curveball or wild card at people. In the last 5 minutes, I have no idea what you're about to say. What is front and center on your radar screen? What is most interesting to you right now?
What's most interesting to me right now is the fact that there is an abundance of evidence, including the FEMA camps, a lot of things you talk about, the seed vault in Spitsbergen, Norway, the underground dumb shelters, deep underground military bunkers, and plus this crackdown on trying to get a chokehold on every individual in this country and apparently in the civilized countries of the world. Apparently there is something coming up of a geophysical nature. I think I have no idea exactly what it is, other than the Ring of Fire in the Pacific is just ablaze with earthquakes and tsunamis. The major earthquakes that have been happening, unprecedented in recent history. I think we're getting ready to see some real traumatic changes take place in the geography of the planet. And I think at some high celestial place, they're well aware of this, and they're keeping us in the dark. But when it happens, they want to be able to maintain and grab total control. And this is, I think, the ongoing impetus for this push towards totalitarianism. And they may be able to rationalize it away, but it's not going to wash with me. I think people ought to be free, and I think that includes the freedom of having the knowledge of what to prepare for.
Well, Jim, I agree with you, and government is digging in against the people. The Ring of Fire is heating up. Just take Fukushima, where reactor 4 is still melting down, and if it totally melts down, top scientists say it'll be the equivalent bare minimum of 85